Cancer remains Scotland's biggest killer, and we know there is a direct link between speed of diagnosis, treatment and survival rates. This week, statistics revealed that 1 in 4 cancer patients had faced delays in treatment. That is 1,130 people starting treatment late in the last 3 months alone. Everyone a son or daughter, everyone a loved one, someone loved by a family waiting anxiously. In fact, none of Scotland's health boards met the 62-day standard for starting cancer treatment. Macmillan have warned that staff are stretched to breaking point, and Cancer Research UK called the delays unacceptable. So does the First Minister agree with the experts, or has his government become complacent in the fight against Scotland's biggest killer?
First Minister.
We absolutely haven't become complacent. I hope we can demonstrate that through the work we've done with key stakeholders in relation to the cancer strategy. Douglas Ross and Anas Sarwar are both absolutely right to raise what is a crucial issue for people right across Scotland. Let me in turn try to give some assurances. We are recovering from a global pandemic. That global pandemic has absolutely had an impact, not just on our health service, but of our cancer services. But if I look at the statistics and the figures, when I look at, for example, the 62-day pathway, we are treating 41.2% more patients on that pathway than we did 10 years ago. And if I look at the 31-day pathway for which there has been an improvement, we are treating 19.6% more patients than we did 10 years ago. So we are seeing more patients. The throughput has increased over the last decade. That's not complacency at all, because there's clearly more to do, particularly around the 62-day pathway. Anas Sarwar also raises the importance of diagnostic waiting times. And again, the latest statistics show an improvement in that regard. So we're not complacent. We'll continue to invest. And as I've said already, we'll continue to invest in ensuring that we have the adequate staff so that we can get treatment to people as early as they possibly can.
Anas Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, COVID started 3 years ago. This government has not met the 62-day standard for 11 years. So cut the complacency and cut the excuses. Because we know that every delay risks lives. And we know that cancer deaths are higher than they should be. So far this year, there have been 398 more cancer deaths than experts would have expected. Avoidable and unnecessary deaths. And this week, it was also revealed that life expectancy in Scotland has dropped again. It's fallen back to a level not seen for over 10 years. There is no starker indication of failure than that. So will the First Minister take this opportunity to apologise for the lost decade on the SNP's watch?
First Minister.
Of course, when people don't get the treatment as quickly as they should, or where targets are missed, then of course the government not just apologises, we have deep regret when that is the case. Of course, Anas Sarwar forgets to mention the fact that what has happened over the last decade is over a decade of Westminster austerity, which we know every single external organisation that has an interest in poverty will tell you that poverty is a clear determinant, is a clear factor of health inequality. So we will do our best to try to mitigate the impact of that Westminster austerity, and we have put hundreds of millions of pounds from our budgets on the table to protect from that Westminster austerity. But in terms of what we're doing in relation to the NHS, I go back to the central point. Record investment, ensuring we pay our staff fairly, hence why there haven't been strikes in Scotland where there have been in health services across the UK, including in Wales and in England. And we'll continue to invest in our staff and ensure that patients get the treatment they deserve as quickly as they possibly deserve.
Anas Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, the First Minister doesn't need to persuade me on how woeful the UK Tory government is, but that doesn't excuse the woeful record of this SNP government for the last 16 years. Every cancer delay raises the chance of avoidable death, and that's why patients should be diagnosed and start treatment in 62 days. But a FOI request has revealed the dire reality for too many patients. Some cancer patients have waited 191 days for diagnosis and treatment. 191 days. A cervical cancer patient waited 217 days. A prostate cancer patient waited 334 days. And there was even a cancer patient that waited 385 days for diagnosis and to start treatment. You can't blame somebody else somewhere else for that. That is the SNP's record. Over a year of anxiety before getting the help those cancer patients needed. So why can't the First Minister see what many on his own benches can see, that the SNP have lost their way, have got complacent and no longer put the interests of the Scottish people first?
First Minister.
That is simply untrue, and that is why, when it comes to who is trusted with the NHS, we tend to leave that verdict to the people of Scotland. The people of Scotland, time and time again, have given that verdict to the SNP, and I can hear Anas Sarwar shouting something about polls, and of course in most of these polls, if not every single one of them, the SNP continue to lead Labour and continue to lead other political parties too, and the reason for that, after 16 years in government, is because of our stewardship of vital public services like the NHS. And let me just remind Anas Sarwar of a couple of points, because I'm not disagreeing with the central premise that neither he nor Douglas Ross have raised, that there has to be improvements in the 62-day standard. And I agree with that, and I accept that. And there obviously has undoubtedly been an impact from COVID. But as things stand, we have seen an improvement in the 62-day standard compared to the previous quarter, where over 7 out of 10 patients are starting treatment within that 62-day standard. It has to be improved, so there is no complacency. And the median wait in relation to the 62-day standard was 49 days. So we'll continue on that journey of recovery. We'll continue to invest in our health service, continue to invest in our staffing, and we'll continue to do what we can to ensure that patients, the public, are seen and treated as quickly as they possibly can.